Hey folks, in this video we're looking at learning some really cool jazz, bluegrass, fusion ideas from guitarist Mickey Abraham. Now, even if you think you don't know Mickey, you probably know his tabs because he writes all of the free monthly arrangements for flatpick.com, aka Flat Picking Guitar Magazine. So if you want to learn all of these interesting and super creative versions of a million standard tunes, check out all of the years and years of work that Mickey has put into this free catalog. And this isn't any kind of sponsorship or anything. I just really like all of the arrangements. They're really good. You should look at them. Also, you can hear a little bit of his group Bell and the Band in my Asheville vlog, and me and Mickey are probably going to be doing some things together in the future, but I'm not really allowed to talk about that yet. Anyway, onto the stuff at hand. Mickey sent me these 2 cell phone videos talking about these more progressive bluegrass licks, and I wanted to share those with you and break them down. One of them works more as a tag, the other one works as a line over dominant chords. So let's start with the tag and let's watch the video that Mickey sent me.
This one is, you would use it for like a bluegrass tag if you were doing like G, 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 and a D and G at the end of any fiddle tune, and you'd have any lick that would be like, you know, or whatever thousands of things you would do. Here would be like a modern, interesting kind of one. It would be like 1, 2, 3. Would fit like 2 pickup notes, and then, which is all totally regular G, and then you go down like this. 1, 2, 3.
Pretty cool stuff, yeah? So there's a couple ways we can break down what's happening here, why these notes work and why Mickey picked them. Let's start from a chord perspective, and then maybe later we'll move to a scale perspective, and let's see if we can work towards that simplest answer of how to view this and think about it. So one way that you can slip some interesting notes into your breaks is by implying chords that aren't actually there. And one way that bluegrass musicians do this a lot is by implying a dominant 7th chord when the rhythm player isn't playing a dominant 7th chord. For instance, our rhythm player may be playing a G chord, and then our soloist would play just an F note. And that sounds like G7, doesn't it? But in this case, Mickey is playing some crazy notes. He's playing like a G sharp, he's playing a D sharp, and normally these are arguably harder notes to fit over the 1 chord when the 1 chord is G. So what new chord is he implying? Well, normally passing chords soften the change between 2 chords on either side. So maybe a better question to ask is what would fit in between G and D? Maybe Mickey is imagining a C-sharp 7 or C-sharp 9 moving into D7 or D9 to soften that transition from G to D. The G-sharp and D-sharp and F notes make complete sense over a C-sharp 9 chord, but it could be a host of chords in that spot with all kinds of extensions. This might not be the most useful way to look at things. Let's try approaching this from a scale perspective. In jazz, there exists a concept of inside playing and outside playing. For the uninitiated, inside playing uses more expected notes, and outside playing uses unexpected notes. To play lines that sound outside, like this one, we can employ a method like pentatonic sidestepping. We play a line using a pentatonic shape, then move that shape up or down a half step and continue the line, eventually moving back to the original shape. You may have noticed that Mickey included a couple notes that weren't pentatonic when he was playing inside. Some of those notes are minor thirds, and it's very commonplace to move from the minor third to the major third in bluegrass, so those notes don't really ring any alarm bells for us. Hopefully this gives you some methods to explore and justify interesting note choice. You see, licks like these can be really hard to replicate if you don't have at least a basic understanding of the construction methods necessary. For instance, to make more lines like this one, I would start pentatonic phrases and I would shift my scale shape a fret forwards or backwards, and continuing the line, and eventually shift the shape back to where I started. Now, you probably won't get great results if you play the same idea every single time you move outside and inside. For instance, this would be a bad example. Not not super interesting, probably not what we're going for. I think sidestepping really works a lot better when your idea is fluid throughout the shapes. Now, I'm by no means a master of this or even good at this, but let's give it a shot. If I used pentatonic shape 3, how about, and I'm going to move it backwards and then forwards. Here we go.
2, 3, and. Would work really well over. It's basically G triads and D flat triads, but putting a flat 5 like this.
Okay, so just like Mickey said, these are alternating triads of G major and D flat major. What links them together is the neat idea that G major's flat 5th is D flat, and D flat major's flat 5th is G. So thinking in G, we play 1, 3, flat 5, 5. Then we switch to thinking in D flat and play 1, 3, flat 5, 5 again. All of the notes we end up playing are as follows: G, A flat, B, D flat, D, and F. So let's find a good scale match for these notes so we can think of it from a scale perspective, and maybe that might help. The best scale match that I can find is probably a dominant diminished scale, or what we call a half-hold diminished scale. The notes in this scale are G, A flat, B, D flat, D, E, and F. This includes all of the notes in our run from Mickey, but of course this has a bigger history than that. The scale is constructed by playing a half step followed by a whole step. That leaves us with an 8-note scale before we get back to G. This scale, because it's composed of a repeating pattern, can be named by a lot of different root notes. For instance, it is also the D-flat dominant diminished scale. We call it the dominant diminished scale because it includes all of the notes in a dominant chord. For instance, this scale includes all of the notes in G7, G, B, D, and F. Some other unique qualities are the minor as well as major third, which facilitates a scoop into the major third. Of course, that sound is common in improvisational genres like bluegrass, blues, jazz, but this scale also includes the major 6th, which we know from our major pentatonic, and the flat 5th, which we know from our blues scales, which leaves us with one more color note, the flat 2nd, in this case A flat, which we haven't seen in a scale on this channel yet, and is definitely a source of some of the weirdness. See, if we play the first 4 notes of this run, it's the second 2 where something weird is happening. So what's happening? Well, from a G perspective, we're hearing the flat 5th move to the 5th. From a D flat perspective, we're hearing the root rub against the flat 2nd. This pattern repeats throughout the lick, and eventually we play a backwards variation to get us back down. Okay, so hopefully you have a little bit more of a grasp on the technical aspect and maybe some music theory that makes a lick or a run like this so interesting. Now let's look at how it actually lays out on our instrument in the fretboard and a good way to visualize that. Now in this tab, it might be kind of hard to see a pattern, and I think that's because the most obvious pattern is offset by 1/8 note. So let's ignore that first note and then look at it in 4-note groupings. You can hear that in every group of notes in this sequence. I'm playing a whole step, followed by an ascending half step, and then a descending half step. Now, every starting note is actually part of a diminished chord, which is kind of a unique thing, right? Dominant diminished scale. Let's see if I can find the notes. Ooh, patterns are interesting. So obviously you can look at and analyze this lick from a lot of cool perspectives, using a lot of cool theory. But what it really comes down to is that the first 4 notes sound a lot like the Jetsons theme song. Meet George Jetson. All right, that's enough of your jazz stuff, Mickey. If you like taking this lesson from the great Mickey Abraham and myself, the biggest, baddest Billy Goat in the barnyard, of course, please look at some more videos on this YouTube channel. There's so much bluegrass content here. And if you're interested, you can hit that subscribe button, but I'm not forcing you. I'm not going to pressure you. I'm just, if you want to, it's out there. You can do it. I'm just, You can also check out my website. There you can order transcriptions of all your favorite breaks. You can also sign up for SKYPE lessons, and there's links to all of the other things I do around the web. Definitely check all of that out because it's all bluegrass related. Anyway, so yeah, go to my website or I'll never make another YouTube video ever again. All right, I'll see you next week.
Train comes tumbling down. Mountains cold, we ring them bells at the crossroads, through the valley below.